No body recovered, no second sighting, no physical trace. Water erupted, debris scattered. Something else rose with them, 20 meters long, webbed limbs, crocodilian skull, twisting violently before falling back. The SS Iberian sank 9 miles from Fastnet Rock, 5,000 tons, 61 souls, 1 torpedo, July 30th, 1915. The Kriegstagebuch recorded the explosion, the boiler rupture, the debris field. Nothing about the creature. Explosions explain debris patterns. Steam columns, structural collapse. But what explains 20 meters of reptilian tissue above the North Atlantic? The Atlantic in wartime operated under different rules. Surface vessels carried no lights. Merchant ships zigzagged their courses. Submarines hunted in the dead zones between patrol routes. The U-28 had been tracking the Iberian since dawn, maintaining periscope depth, diesel engines throttled to near silence. The convoy system had not yet been implemented. British merchantmen sailed alone, exposed, relying on speed and luck. Captain Lieutenant Georg Günther von Forstner had commanded the U-28 for 8 months, 32 patrols, 17 confirmed kills. The procedure had become routine. Surface identification through the periscope, confirm nationality, calculate firing solution, 1 torpedo, 70 seconds to impact. Then the dive, deep and fast, before the Royal Navy destroyers arrived. The Iberian had been an easy target, no escort. Clear weather, flat seas. The torpedo struck amidships at 1400 hours, tearing through the hull plating below the waterline. The engine room flooded immediately. The boilers lost pressure. Within 90 seconds, the stern began to sink. Von Forstner had surfaced to observe. Standard protocol. Confirm the kill for the war diary. Document the sinking for the patrol report. 4 men stood on the conning tower. Von Forstner, Oberleutnant Wilhelm Hartmann on watch duty, Navigator Klaus Bergmann with his charts and stopwatch, Steuermann Franz Weber at the helm controls. They watched the Iberian's bow rise. The propeller broke the surface, still spinning. Lifeboats launched from the port side. Men scrambled across the tilting deck. The stern disappeared first, then the smokestack, then the main superstructure. The ocean swallowed 5,000 tons in less than 3 minutes. 25 seconds after the ship vanished, the sea convulsed. The explosion came from below, not a surface detonation. Something deep. The boilers, most likely. Superheated steam meeting cold Atlantic water. The pressure differential creating a blast wave that traveled upward through 30 meters of ocean. The column of water rose straight up. Debris scattered in all directions. Wooden planks, metal fragments, cargo crates. And something else. Something that twisted violently in mid-air before falling back into the waves. Von Forstner had seen whales before, porpoises, sharks, seals. The Atlantic held no mysteries for a veteran submarine commander, but this was different. The shape was wrong. The movement was wrong. The size was impossible. Hartmann saw it first. He pointed without speaking. Bergmann raised his binoculars. Weber stepped away from the helm to get a clearer view. All 4 men watched the same thing. A creature approximately 20 meters in length. 4 limbs, each ending in webbed appendages. A long tail that lashed through the air. A head shaped like an elongated wedge. Pointed, reptilian. The creature fell back into the water, approximately 40 meters from the U-28. The impact created a secondary splash pattern. Then nothing. The surface returned to its normal state. Small waves. Debris floating in expanding circles. No sign of the creature. Von Forstner ordered the U-28 to maintain position. He scanned the area with his binoculars for 6 minutes. Hartmann did the same. The creature did not resurface. The debris field continued to spread. 3 lifeboats from the Iberian moved away from the sinking site, making for the Irish coast. Weber broke the silence first. He asked if anyone else had seen what he had seen. Bergman confirmed. Hartmann confirmed. Von Forstner confirmed. 4 trained naval officers. 4 identical observations. A creature that should not exist, thrown into the air by an underwater explosion. The U-28 remained on station for another 12 minutes. Von Forstner wrote the initial report in his mind. The sinking, the explosion, the debris pattern. He considered adding the creature. He decided against it. The Kriegstagebuch required facts, tonnage, coordinates, time of impact, time of sinking, casualties. A sea monster did not fit the format. The patrol continued. The U-28 dove to cruising depth and moved northwest, searching for new targets. The crew rotated through their watches. The diesel engines maintained their steady rhythm. Life aboard a submarine returned to its normal patterns, but the creature remained. In the minds of 4 men who had seen something impossible, in the conversations whispered in the cramped crew quarters, in the sketches that Bergman drew in the margins of his navigation charts. A crocodile, he called it, 20 meters long, with legs that ended in flippers, thrown 25 meters into the air above the coldest waters of the North Atlantic. The War Diary for July 30th, 1915 contains 147 words: location, target identification, torpedo expenditure, sinking confirmed, time elapsed, weather conditions, no enemy response. The entry occupies half a page. It mentions the boiler explosion. It describes the debris field. It does not mention the creature. Von Forstner would not speak publicly about what he saw for 18 years. The U-28 returned to Wilhelmshaven on August 14th, 1915. 15 days at sea, 4 vessels sunk, 23,000 tons of enemy shipping sent to the bottom. The patrol report listed each engagement in standard format: coordinates, tonnage, time, outcome. The entry for the Iberian occupied 3 lines: no amendments, no footnotes, no supplementary observations. Von Forstner submitted the report to Korvettenkapitän Hermann Bauer, commander of the submarine flotilla. Bauer reviewed the document in silence. He initialed each page. He filed the report with the others. The Iberian became another number in the tally of Allied losses: 5,223 tons, 7 dead, 54 survivors picked up by a British patrol vessel. Case closed. Hartmann returned to his family in Hamburg. Bergman took a 3-day leave in Berlin. Weber remained aboard for the next patrol. None of them filed separate reports. None of them requested interviews with naval intelligence. The creature existed only in their memories and in Bergman's sketches, which he kept folded inside his personal logbook. The biological literature of 1915 offered no explanations. The largest known marine reptile was the saltwater crocodile, which reached a maximum length of 7 meters and inhabited tropical estuaries. They did not venture into open ocean. They did not survive in water below 15 degrees Celsius. The North Atlantic in July averaged 11 degrees at the surface, colder at depth. Extinct marine reptiles presented a different problem. Mosasaurs and pliosaurs had ruled the Mesozoic seas 66 million years earlier. The fossil record was clear. They possessed the correct anatomy: elongated skulls, 4 flippers, long tails, sizes ranging from 6 to 20 meters. But they had vanished with the dinosaurs. No credible scientist in 1915 believed otherwise. The explosion itself offered no biological solution. Boiler ruptures in sinking ships were common. Superheated steam meeting cold water created violent detonations. The physics were well understood. Debris patterns were predictable. Heavy objects fell close to the blast center. Light objects scattered farther. But living tissue followed different rules. Animals avoided sinking ships. They fled from explosions. They did not position themselves directly above ruptured boilers 30 meters underwater, unless the creature had been feeding. Scavenging the debris field, investigating the sinking vessel at the exact moment the boilers failed. The timing suggested proximity, deliberate proximity. Something about the Iberian had attracted the creature, something worth the risk of approaching a disaster in progress. Von Forstner considered these questions privately. he discussed them with no one. The Imperial German Navy operated on discipline and documentation. Officers reported what they could prove. They avoided speculation. They especially avoided reports that would make them appear unreliable or unstable. Submarine commanders carried enormous responsibility. Any doubt about their judgment could end a career. The war continued. The U-28 completed 9 more patrols under von Forstner's command. 31 additional vessels sunk. 147,000 tons of Allied shipping destroyed. The war diary grew thicker. The entries remained factual. Coordinates, tonnage, weather, no creatures. In November 1918, Germany surrendered. The Imperial Navy was dissolved. Most submarines were scuttled or handed over to Allied forces as war reparations. The U-28 survived until 1919, when it was broken up for scrap in a British shipyard. The hull was cut apart, the diesel engines removed, the torpedo tubes salvaged. Nothing remained except documentation. Von Forstner returned to civilian life. He married. He worked in maritime insurance. He attended veteran gatherings where former submarine commanders shared stories about difficult patrols and close calls with depth charges. He never mentioned the creature. Hartmann moved to Argentina. Bergmann died in 1924 from influenza. Weber disappeared from public records after 1921. The Iberian itself left few traces. Lloyd's Register listed it as a war loss. The British Admiralty recorded the sinking in its casualty reports. Newspapers in Manchester and Boston printed brief notices. 54 survivors gave statements to naval investigators. None of them mentioned seeing anything unusual in the water. They had been focused on abandoning ship. They had been rowing away from the sinking site. They had not been watching the debris field. The creature had appeared for perhaps 6 seconds, visible only to those standing on the conning tower of the U-28. 4 men watching from approximately 200 meters away. No cameras, no other witnesses, nothing but memory. 14 years passed. Von Forstner remained silent. Then, in October 1933, he changed his mind. The reasons remain unclear. Perhaps retirement had loosened the old naval discipline. Perhaps he believed enough time had passed. Perhaps he simply wanted the record corrected, while the other witnesses were still alive to confirm his account. He wrote an article for Die Deutsche Zeitung, a civilian newspaper with no official military connections. The piece appeared on October 19th. It described the sinking of the Iberian in technical detail: coordinates, time, torpedo impact, boiler explosion. Then it described what happened 25 seconds after the ship disappeared. 4 witnesses, 1 creature. 20 meters long, thrown into the air above the Atlantic. The article included no sketches, no photographs, no supporting documentation beyond von Forstner's reputation as a decorated submarine commander. It named Hartmann, Bergmann, and Weber as witnesses. It invited readers to form their own conclusions. It offered no explanation. The German press received the story with skepticism. Some newspapers reprinted it as a curiosity. Others ignored it entirely. Marine biologists dismissed it as a misidentification. A large shark, perhaps, or a piece of the ship's hull that resembled an animal in the confusion of the explosion. Memory, they noted, became unreliable over 18 years. But von Forstner had not waited 18 years to speak. He had waited 14. The event occurred in July 1915. He published the account in October 1933. The gap was deliberate, calculated. Long enough for the war to end and the Navy to dissolve. Long enough for military consequences to become irrelevant. Short enough that the memory remained vivid and the other witnesses could still be contacted. Hartmann was alive in Buenos Aires. He never publicly confirmed or denied von Forstner's account. Weber's whereabouts remained unknown. Bergmann was dead. The sketches in his navigation logbook had been lost or discarded. Only von Forstner's words remained. And the Kriegstagebuch, which said nothing about creatures, only explosions. The biology of the North Atlantic in 1915 was well documented. Whales, dolphins, seals, sharks, tuna, cod, species adapted to cold water and long migrations. No reptiles. The temperature barrier was absolute. Crocodilians required external heat sources to maintain body function. Below 20 degrees Celsius, their metabolism slowed. Below 15 degrees, they became immobile. Below 10 degrees, they died. The water 9 miles from Fastnet Rock averaged 11 degrees in July. At 30 meters depth, where the boilers ruptured, the temperature dropped to 9 degrees. A 20-meter crocodilian would have required sustained body heat above 30 degrees. The physics did not allow it. Heat loss in cold water follows predictable equations. Size provides no protection. The creature would have frozen within minutes. Marine biologists in 1933 rejected alternative explanations. Pinnipeds did not exceed 5 meters. Toothed whales possessed rounded heads and horizontal tail flukes, not 4 distinct limbs or vertical tails. The morphology matched no known living species and no plausible evolutionary pathway. Mosasaurs fit the anatomical description perfectly, but they had been extinct for 66 million years. The explosion physics presented a critical problem. To launch an object 25 meters high requires precise force and positioning. A 20-meter animal would weigh between 15 and 30 tons. That creature would need to be within 5 meters of the exploding boiler at the moment of detonation. 3 scenarios could explain it: random chance, attraction to the sinking ship, or feeding behavior. Feeding behavior remained most plausible. If the creature was a scavenger, a sinking ship represented opportunity, debris, dead fish, potentially injured crew. But this required the creature to be near the surface regularly. Shallow water species, or one that moved between deep and shallow zones following prey. Von Forstner's report mentioned one overlooked detail. The creature fell 40 meters from the U-28. It created a secondary splash. Then it vanished. It did not resurface. It did not thrash. The fall from 25 meters would have been devastating, equivalent to hitting concrete at 70 kilometers per hour. The creature simply disappeared, as if the fall had been routine, or as if it was already dead when thrown into the air, killed by the explosion, body launched by kinetic force, falling back as a corpse. No body was recovered. The U-28 departed 12 minutes after the sighting. British patrol vessels would respond to distress calls. Remaining risked counterattack. The submarine dove and moved northwest, leaving the debris field behind. The 54 survivors saw nothing. They were questioned by British naval intelligence about the U-boat attack. Descriptions of the submarine, its markings, whether the crew surfaced to fire on survivors. No one asked about marine life. No one mentioned anything except debris and lifeboats. The survivors had been rowing toward the Irish coast. They had their backs to the explosion. Only the men on the U-28 were watching. The Kriegstagebuch entry contained 147 words. It mentioned an explosion. Boiler rupture was assumed, but not confirmed. No salvage operation was attempted. The Iberian lay in water too deep for recovery. It remained on the seabed, undisturbed, its boilers silent. On July 30th, 1915, the U-28 torpedoed the SS Iberian 9 miles southwest of Fastnet Rock. The ship sank in 3 minutes. 25 seconds after disappearing, the boilers exploded underwater. 4 German officers standing on the conning tower reported seeing a 20-meter creature thrown into the air. The sighting lasted 6 seconds. No other witnesses confirmed it. Von Forstner published the account 18 years later. The official war diary mentioned only the explosion and debris. The most consistent explanation is not biological, it is perceptual. 4 men under combat stress, standing 200 meters away, observed an explosion that launched debris 25 meters into the air. Human pattern recognition evolved to identify animals, predators, prey, threats. It functions automatically, especially under stress. When the brain receives ambiguous visual data, it defaults to familiar categories. Long objects become snakes. Irregular shapes become faces. Debris thrown violently through the air becomes a living thing. The Iberian carried machinery, heavy equipment, structural elements. The explosion would have launched the largest, most intact pieces highest. A section of deck plating, part of the smokestack assembly, a boiler component still partially intact. At 200 meters distance, through binoculars, rotating through the air for 6 seconds, such objects would present confusing silhouettes. A long metal beam with protruding brackets could suggest limbs. A curved pipe section could suggest a tail. The imagination, primed by stress and expectation, fills in the missing details. The brain constructs a creature where only wreckage exists. This explanation accounts for the anatomical details. The 20-meter length matches large structural components. The forelimbs match protruding elements. The tail matches a trailing section. The pointed head matches the tapered end of a beam or pipe assembly. Most critically, it explains why the creature vanished without resurfacing. Debris does not swim, it sinks. Heavy metal components dropped from 25 meters would penetrate deep and continue descending. No body would be found because no body existed. It also explains the timing of von Forstner's report. 18 years created distance. The initial shock faded. Memory became narrative. Details solidified into certainty. By 1933, what might have been doubt in 1915 had become conviction. The story improved with retelling. The creature became more defined, more real, more certain. Human memory does not preserve events. It reconstructs them. Each reconstruction incorporates new elements, fills gaps, resolves ambiguities. After 18 years, von Forstner believed absolutely in what he reported. But belief and accuracy are not the same thing. The lack of corroboration supports this explanation. Hartmann never publicly confirmed the sighting. Weber disappeared from records. Bergman died before the article was published. Only von Forstner spoke. Only his version entered the record. And his version came nearly 2 decades late, after the Kriegstagebuch had been filed, after the war had ended, after consequences no longer mattered. The alternative requires accepting that a 20-meter marine reptile survived in the North Atlantic, undetected for 66 million years after its supposed extinction. That it surfaced at the exact location of a boiler explosion. That it was thrown into the air and survived the impact. That it left no physical evidence. That it was never seen again despite thousands of similar explosions throughout the Great War. The probability approaches 0. No investigation followed von Forstner's article. The German Navy no longer existed in its imperial form. The Weimar Republic had no interest in pursuing cryptozoological claims from former submarine commanders. Marine biology journals did not consider the report credible enough for peer review. The story entered popular literature as a curiosity, a footnote in collections of unexplained phenomena. It remained there. The U-28's war diary was preserved in German naval archives. It was examined by historians in subsequent years. The entry for July 30th, 1915 never changed. 147 words, coordinates, tonnage, explosion, debris. The account that von Forstner trusted enough to submit under his signature while on active duty. The account he wrote within hours of the event. The account that mentioned no creature. The Iberian rests on the Atlantic seabed where it sank. No expedition has attempted to locate the wreck. The site holds no strategic value, no treasure. The ship and whatever debris surrounds it remain undisturbed. If parts of the structure were blown clear during the explosion, they lie scattered across the seabed, corroded, covered in marine growth, unrecognizable. Von Forstner never retracted his account during his lifetime. He never provided additional details. The story remained exactly as published in Die Deutsche Zeitung. 4 witnesses, One creature. 6 seconds. No evidence beyond memory and the certainty that comes from years of retelling. The event occurred. 4 men saw something. The torpedo struck. The Iberian sank. The boilers exploded. Something rose with the debris. The question is not whether they saw. The question is what they saw, and whether what they saw was what they believed they saw, or whether stress and distance and expectation and time transformed wreckage into legend. The Kriegstagebuch provides the answer. Von Forstner, within hours of the event, with clarity and discipline, wrote what he considered important enough to document. He recorded the sinking, the explosion, the debris field. He submitted the report under his signature. He trusted it enough to stake his professional reputation on its accuracy, and it mentioned no creature. That silence, recorded in official ink while the memory was fresh, carries more weight than any article published 18 years later. If 4 trained officers reported the impossible, why did naval protocol demand silence?